Hello, everybody. How are you? Look at that. Look at that snow on top of the mountain. In December, a lot of people from the flatlands here in the San Gabriel Valley went up there. I talked to a lot of people. They said their kids had never seen snow. And that by the time they get up there at the top, people were pulled off to the side of the road. There's a traffic jam of people. There's so many people, and they were throwing snowballs and enjoying and having a good old time. You just couldn't move. But the topic of this video is part of our Denver series. We are starting a new series this week. We're going to focus on Denver. We talked a little bit earlier in the intro video about how Denver got its name. And in this one, we're just going to talk a little bit about Denver's climate. And Denver is, like I said, interesting because it sits on the flat part of the state. Some people call it the high plains, right next to the mountains. You can look outside of your office window in one of those towers downtown, and the mountains are right there. In fact, I heard of some people shooting a clothesline from their office window on the 35th floor straight out into one of the mountains and hanging their laundry at lunch. So, in other words, Denver has a cowboy past, and often it doesn't leave the DNA of the residents. Now, you could say the area is semi-arid, and that just means that they get shipments of arid every 2 weeks, and the city loves that brand. They will fill in with deodorant from the 99-cent store if they have to. Of course, everybody wants to be smelling fresh and clean, but they love that arid. Now, the thing about the climate is that there's microclimates within Denver. Even though there's 4 distinct seasons, you might have a microclimate within a very small area. There's been reports of a 4-block neighborhood having a series of thunderstorms, while outside of that, it was completely calm and blue skies. There were 4 to 6 block areas in Denver that were having tornadoes, and just outside of that microclimate, people were lounging in their lounge chairs, slathering on suntan lotion and enjoying 88-degree weather. So it's very dramatic, the weather contrast in Denver. It takes a little bit of getting used to for people that are new to the region, and you can often tell. So the warmest month is July, like most of the country. I'm going to say July is probably the warmest month. Temperatures can average around 88 degrees. Of course, if you're a longtime Denver resident, you know they go much higher than that at times, up to 140, 150 degrees. However, how many times, if you're a Denver local, have you been out riding your horse and checking the fence lines, and you look up at the sun beating down on your head, and you say, Sandy, talking to your horse, Sandy, it's got to be 142 degrees out here, and you really are not wrong. In the warming effect of the Chinook winds is a big effect in Denver, Chinook winds. In the winter, it gets, as you can imagine, extremely cold. Now, there is a city-wide mandate that once the snows come, and they come heavy, just like the mafia, they come heavy, each resident is required to carry a pair of snowshoes with them. Now, you don't necessarily have to wear the snowshoes at all times. Like, let's say you're getting on the city bus. You don't necessarily have to wear the snowshoes, but you're required to carry them on your back because the city bus may not run that day. And the thing is about the snow, it just suddenly snows 9 or 10 feet. So you might, let's say you get up at 7 o'clock on Monday, you're leaving for work by, let's say you get up at 6, you're leaving for work by 7. There can be between 6 o'clock when you get up and 7 o'clock when you leave the house, there might be 9 to 10 feet of snow dropping in the Denver area. So that's why they require you to carry those snowshoes in case you need to. I mean, let's say you're on the bus and it stops running and you really need to go to the bathroom. Well, they don't want you making the snow yellow. So you got to have your snowshoes ready so that you can walk to a gas station, walk to a Starbucks. If you go into Starbucks, please take off your snowshoes. We don't need you clattering around and banging into chairs at the Starbucks when I'm on my laptop working on my screenplay. So now here's the thing. There's not a lot of tornadoes in Denver. There's just not. But in 1988, guys, there was a huge one. Just south of downtown, June 15th, 1988. And the longtime locals, the OGs, they can tell you all about it. Now, what happened is this tornado was so strong that it picked up entire neighborhoods and moved them to a different part of the city. So there were people that lived on the northwest side that after the tornado, they were in the southeast school district. An amazing, powerful wind that was so strong and so life-changing that many people felt it was a sign from God. Scientists have studied this. Religious experts have studied this. People are not exactly sure what that sign meant. But it was so powerful in the city because when you are used to living on a certain side of town and then you are abruptly and violently moved to a whole different part of town with no effort on your own other than laying in bed and going, woo-hoo! You know, because your house is twisting in the wind and you're getting moved like 45 miles. So that was an amazing thing that people still talk about today. Let's see, what else we got? So the record high, let's look at some record highs. This will be interesting. In January, it was 76. We're talking Fahrenheit, folks. We're Americans. Let's look at June record high. Woo! 157 degrees. Oh my goodness. 157 degrees. Unbelievable. All right, now let's look at the record low in January. The record low was 140 below. So, you know, when it gets to be 140 below, certain things change in the city. They turn on the hot water pipes that they rely on to keep the streets liquid enough that there's trains and buses and cars can travel. So they have a series of hot water pipes below the city, and they turn those on to heat the streets. And that's why the local rock festival is called Heat the Streets. Okay? It's a 3-day rock festival. They took their name from the nature of those pipes underneath the city. Heat the Streets, a 3-day rock festival. And it's every year, and it's about 45 minutes east of the city, out in the old fairgrounds. But they heat the streets so that the snow melts, the ice melts. They don't have to send around 8,000 tractors and graders and bulldozers to push the snow off the streets. It's a brilliant idea, and those pipes were laid in the 1890s. And they've continued that ever since. And the city of Denver said that over the years they've spent probably $5 or $6 billion on pipes beneath the city streets. So that is fascinating that when it gets down to 140 below, once it gets down to about 30 below, 50, 70 below, they turn on the pipes. And it takes 3 days for the pipes to warm up. It's an amazing, see, Denver, this is one reason why Denver is so popular among visitors and people escaping from the madness that is California, is that the pipes beneath the street idea is just an example of the innovation that people love so much. The openness to ideas and change and making things work by not brute force, but by the magic of the power of the creative mind. Well, guys, that is just a real quick snapshot of the climate. We're going to have so many more videos about this great city. Come on back.